Have you ever felt like you were one step away from achieving something incredible, a career boost, a healthier body, a relationship that finally made sense, and then suddenly it all fell apart by your own hands? Maybe you've been putting off that important project until the deadline blew up in your face. Or you started a fight for no reason with someone you love, just when things were going well. Or, who knows, maybe you dropped a routine that was transforming you, right when the results started to appear. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. I've been there, and I bet you have a story like that too. A few years ago, I decided it was time to change my life. After a scare with my health, a test that turned on all the red lights, I promised myself that I would turn the game around. For 4 months, I was impeccable. I woke up early to run, swapped delivery for fresh meals that I prepared myself, and even managed to sleep well, a rare thing for someone who was glued to their cell phone until midnight. The result? I felt like another person. I had energy to give and sell, my mood was as light as it had been in a while, and even the doctors were surprised by the results of my exams. People around me started to notice. Wow, you look radiant, what's going on? I smiled, proudly, thinking that this time I had found the way. Subscribe to the channel and join us. But then, without warning, I started to slip. First, it was a day that couldn't train normal, right? But that day turned into a week. Then came the thought, a quick snack won't kill anyone. Suddenly, that snack became routine. Within a few weeks, I was back where I started, tired, discouraged, and wondering how I let it all fall apart. It was only months later that I realized that this was not an isolated case. I had done this before, in other areas of life, whenever success knocked on the door. And that's when it hit me, why, just when I'm so close, do I lose everything? Today, we'll explore this question together, delving into Carl Jung's ideas to understand what holds us back, and how we can finally move forward. So what is this strange force that makes us trip over our own feet just when the finish line is in sight? We are not talking about bad luck or a simple lack of discipline. Self-sabotage is something deeper, a pattern that repeats itself like a broken record. You want to grow, but something inside you presses the brakes. It could be that promotion that you avoid seeking for fear of not being able to handle it, the habit of pushing away anyone who gets too close, or even the way you fill your head with distractions so you don't face an important task. It's frustrating but common. And, to understand why this happens, let's turn to one of the greatest thinkers in psychology, Carl Jung. Jung, a brilliant Swiss who lived between 1875 and 1961, began as Freud's partner but soon forged his own path. While Freud saw the unconscious as a chest of repressed desires, Jung went further. He believed that our mind carries more complex layers. There is the personal unconscious, with our individual memories and pains, and the collective unconscious, a space that we all share, full of universal symbols and patterns that he called archetypes. Jung brought ideas that shaped how we think about ourselves. Have you ever heard of introvert and extrovert? It was him. But, for our talk today, the concept that matters is the shadow, that part of us that we hide, deny, or don't even know exists. Self-sabotage, in Jung's view, arises from this shadow. Imagine that, as a child, you learned to keep certain things in check. Perhaps you swallowed your anger so as not to be beaten at home, or hid your dreams because someone said they were nonsense. These parts don't disappear, they go into the shadows and stay there, quiet, but not so much. The problem is that, when ignored, they come back in a crooked way. If you never accept your ambition, you may end up boycotting chances to shine at work. If you've repressed the need to be vulnerable, you can blow up a good relationship just so you don't open up. Jung said, "What you don't face on the inside appears on the outside as destiny." In other words, the shadow, he's not just a villain, he's a living force, trying to make himself heard. But why does it bother us? Jung believed that our mind seeks balance. If you chase a goal without listening to these rejected parts, they scream louder to remind you that they exist. It's like an internal system of checks and balances. And there's more, these patterns often come from old wounds, what Jung called complexes. If you grew up with a father who criticized everything, you may have an inner voice that shoots down your ideas before you even try. Or, if you feel abandoned, you can push people away to control the pain before it hits you again. It sounds crazy, but Jung saw a purpose in this. Our psyche wants to resolve what was left open, even if that means repeating the suffering. The trick is that self-sabotage is not just destruction, it can be a sign. Jung spoke of individuation, a process of becoming whole, bringing together light and shadow. The shadow is not the enemy, it holds energies that, if embraced, can transform us. So, the next time you find yourself slipping, ask, what is this trying to show me? If self-sabotage comes from this shadow that Jung described, this hidden part that messes up our plans, how do we deal with it? The good news is that Jung didn't just leave us with theories, he pointed out ways to transform this internal enemy into an ally. It's not about erasing the shadow or pretend that he doesn't exist, but listen to what he has to say and bring him to the team. Let's explore some practical tools to do this, things you can start today to stop boycotting yourself and, who knows, take a step towards the individuation that Jung talked about so much. First, pay attention to your dreams. Jung saw dreams as a portal to the unconscious, a way for our mind to shed light on what is hidden. Have you ever woken up feeling like you missed something important or were unprepared for a test? These themes that keep coming back may be clues to the shadow. Write down what you dreamed as soon as you open your eyes, even the silly details count. Ask, who or what appeared? If it's a figure that irritates or scares you, it could be a part of you that you don't want to see. For example, dreaming about someone lazy may show that you are denying your own desire to rest. Another technique is active imagination, an exercise Jung loved. It works like this: close your eyes, take a deep breath and imagine your self-sabotage as a person or creature. Maybe it's a grumpy critic or a monster that pulls you back. Give him a face and ask, why are you here? What do you want to protect me? Write the dialogue or just let it roll in your head. It may seem strange, but this opens up a conversation with the unconscious. I did this once and talked to a version of myself that put off everything. It turned out she was afraid of failing. Understanding this helped me be kinder to myself. It's also worth looking at your exaggerated reactions. Jung said that what turns us off in others is a mirror of what we reject in ourselves. If you hate arrogant people, are you suppressing your own confidence? Make a list. What traits in other people annoy the hell out of you? Then ask, where do I have this, and not admit it? It's not to blame yourself, but to get to know yourself. I already realized that I judged those who asked for help, until I admitted that I myself was ashamed of appearing weak. Finally, try putting the shadow out in a creative way. Write a story, draw, dance, anything that lets those energies flow without judgment. Jung believed that art connects conscious and unconscious. When I started painting again after years, a lot of anger came out that I didn't even know I was carrying, and, look, it was liberating. It doesn't have to be perfect, the thing is to express. The secret here is patience. Jung didn't promise quick solutions, he talked about building a constant dialogue with these rejected parties. Start small, choose one of these tools and test it for a week. Ask yourself, what do I gain if I stop running away from this? The goal is not to fix the shadow, but integrate it, transform that raw energy into something that pushes you forward. It's courageous work, but it can change everything. We have reached the end of this journey through the labyrinth of self-sabotage, guided by the lights that Carl Jung turned on more than a century ago. We saw how the shadow, that dark corner of our mind, is not just a saboteur, but a messenger. It carries the parts of us that we have forgotten, rejected, or never had the courage to embrace. And, yes, it can bring us down, but it also holds the key to something bigger, becoming whole, more real, more ourselves. Jung called this individuation, a path that does not promise perfection, but the chance to live authentically, accepting both the light and the shadow that make us up. Looking back, I realized that those months in which I abandoned my health were not just a failure, they were a cry from my unconscious, asking me to stop running and look within. Maybe you also have these moments, falls that, deep down, are invitations. The question is, what do we do with them? Jung left us a powerful reminder: I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to be. This does not erase the past, but it gives us the power to decide the next step. Self-sabotage doesn't have to be the end of the story, it can be the beginning of a transformation, if you have the courage to face what it reveals. Now, I invite you to reflect: what patterns have you noticed in your life? When do you usually hit the brakes? Leave your answer in the comments, I'd love to hear how this resonates with you. If something here made sense, how about trying one of the tools we talked about? Grab a notebook, write down a dream, or talk to that part of you that always holds you back. Small steps count. And, if this video helped you see something new, give it a like, subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who might need it. Your support makes a difference so that more content like this reaches those who need it. As Jung said, looking outside is dreaming, but looking inside is awakening. How about starting to wake up to who you really are? See you in the next video. Until then, keep exploring your own story.